Hello, my astrology family. This is Lada from Astrolada.com. This is the most important and exciting month of the year, not just personally, but for the world, because the two planets, the two probably most intense planets, Saturn and Pluto, are changing signs in March. So there will be big world important events that you'll notice around March, maybe a little bit before, a little bit after. But on a personal level, this will be a game changer, many new beginnings in your life. Old problems will disappear and new exciting territories and problems will appear. Let's see what it's going to be like. I'll speak about each of the 12 signs. You'll come back to this video for many years, at least for the next 3 years, because I'll speak about how Saturn will influence you for the next 3 years and Pluto for the next 20 years. So please save this video to favorites, because you will need it. When things start happening, this will explain to you and give you perspective, so you don't feel overwhelmed, or so you feel like, wow, I'm on time, like a deja vu. This is exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. So this is an important video. And before I start, please do start with your ascendant. If you know your time of birth, start with your rising sign, also known as ascendant. If you don't know it, start with your sun sign and moon sign if you can, but the ascendant is the most important, I think, if your time of birth is correct. And then I'll follow if you're day born, the sun. Check the 3 if you want, but always for me the ascendant is it. And by the way, before we start, just to let you know, I'm doing a big webinar on Pluto in Aquarius. That will be at the end of February, the start of March. It's only $39. It will be 5 hours, and I'll walk you through how Pluto will affect you personally, because Pluto will be in Aquarius for the next 20 years, and I'll show you how, and you'll be able to see what areas Pluto will influence. Say Pluto will square your Mars, natal Mars, in 2036. What does it mean? Or Pluto will enter your second house and it will transit the second house cusp in 2025. What does it mean for you? Or Pluto will trine your Venus. What does it mean for your life, for your love life, and which year? So that will be a very personal webinar, but because I'll show you how you can calculate it and see it very easy, but at the same time very insightful for you to plan, because Pluto is the planet of the evolution of the soul. And if the most important changes on a spiritual and material level always happen through Pluto. So let's enjoy the videos. Gemini rising sun or moon March 2023, but the most important event this month is that Saturn is changing signs. You might feel this one actually immediately, even though it's going to be there for 3 years till 2025-6. It's the moment Saturn changes signs, it starts affecting a different area of your life, and usually some kind of a symbolic event happens that shows you where events will be going in the next 3 years. So Saturn has been in your 9th house for the last 3 years, since 2020, since April 2020. And if you want to know what the lessons were and how you have learned them and see how you did with that energy, listen to the next sign, to Cancer, because I speak about Saturn in the 9th house there. So, but that's for you that already passed. But listen to it and say, like, tick, 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 yes, this happened, wow, I really changed like that. So it gives you reassurance how correct astrology is. But Saturn is moving from your 9th house and it's going into your 10th house, Gemini, and it's going to be there till 2026. What does it mean? Look, this is the top of the chart. This is the area that we're most scrutinized at, because it's most visible. Everyone can see it. It's on top here. So everyone can see it. So your actions in public, which is the 10th house, will be strongly criticized or strongly observed. So you need to acquire an ethics and a method of right action. It has to be morally and ethically right. And it has to be decent and proper work that you do, because whether you work in a company or whether you're in the public life in some way, or even if you don't work, somehow you become more of a public figure. Like your life will be more exposed, and your actions in particular will be more noticeable to others, and you might even feel criticized at times. You might feel like the bosses are too tough on you and criticizing you. If you're at school, that your teachers and those authority figures, the 10th house is those on top, are criticizing you or being tough on you, demanding more from you than normal. Or that some institutions, like it might be government institutions, bank, or whatever, in some way that are very tough and demanding on you. Maybe they want you to live up to your full potential, or maybe they're downright despotic, and you have to learn to discriminate which is which and to actually, oftentimes, even if it's someone despotic, sometimes you'd find that if you do the right work and correct your actions, so really put your efforts in whatever you're doing, you'd find out, even though it was hard at this time and you felt tightly scrutinized and judged, that it's actually this type of teacher or this type of, let's say, authority figure above you really was necessary, because you mastered something, because you completed something, because you brought out better, masterful product out of yourself, or so in your career or in your personal life. And it sometimes is not at all an external authority figure. Like when I had Saturn transiting my 10th house from my Ascendant, I had no boss already. I had my own business, but it was my own internal authority that was constantly scrutinizing and dissatisfied, like the voice of dissatisfaction with. And I started noticing a lot more what I was doing wrong with my work, how the structure of my business was not correct, how I was like, I had a few fits and a few breakdowns and crises at the beginning of Saturn transiting my 10th house, because like of how the website was working, how the business was working. It was all too burdensome. It was all too old school. I had to restructure, reorganize. So it was about 2 years that I was restructuring my whole business, because I was my own inner authority that was, let's say that I was being hard on myself, that I wanted to present myself in the public eye more in a more streamlined, elegant way, my business, my work. I had to prioritize which work is most important, because often when Saturn is in the 10th house, your workload can become too much, can become a bit unbearable as well. And you have to be very work smart, not hard only, during that time, to prioritize. And during that time, I decided that I cannot keep doing the same thing I've been doing for the previous years, like doing all the emails on my own, answering everything. I was like, no, I need to focus on what is most useful, most helpful to people, what am I best at. So you kind of like take a deep, long scrutiny and examination of your career. If you're in the right career, you would restructure it in some way, you would reorganize it. You can even make it a bit smaller, but more elegant, more streamlined. And by the end of this process finishing, you'd have maybe more automated way of doing it, with less work you're having to do, but you do the hard work then. You restructure it something, and after that it will be so much smoother and easier. Or you might even decide to make your business smaller, like size, but focus on more important things that even bring you more income, or that make you more respected in that area. But you might be also, if you're working for someone else, you can notice that there is more workload, or that the bosses, there's some obstacles that you have to overcome with bosses or authority figures. You can notice that father figures might be more judgmental, more difficult around that time. I had a huge blowout with my dad, because he became super controlling around that time when Saturn was in my 10th house. And I had to take a step back from that relationship. Saturn is a bit of a distance as well. So especially distance yourself a little bit from authority figures, but respect them. You cannot avoid them fully when Saturn is in the 10th house. You have lessons to learn from them. Learn from the criticism you receive from others in the form of authority figures. So, you might take it very personally, but you have to distance yourself from it. So you can see that actually, yes, they have a right point. I have to correct something here. I have to be more organized there, or something like that. But yes, there might be something with authority figures, with bosses, that's happening. Another thing is that you might, if you're not in the right career line, some of you might really decide that uh, even if you're not aware that you're not in the right career path, you might notice that a series of unfortunate events happening there. Like just things are not going well, they're stuck, they're not going well. And this stuckness and the dissatisfaction that you start feeling ask you to examine again. This is Saturn, slow down the frame. Don't just go every day to work and do the same thing. If it starts getting troublesome and unhappy, but if you feel and you examine that you're still in the right career, you just have to change something about it to make it more enjoyable for you, to make it more worth your effort. Or if you're not in the right career, just like sometimes you might even be fired or whatever, but you slow down again and you decide which direction do I want to go to. So you take a long, deep look at those topics of how do I contribute to the world, and you become more serious about that. You become more serious about your career. You become more deliberate about it, more planning. You might have to, and things with Saturn don't happen fast. You might have to, if you're looking for career or job or new direction, you might have to apply to many places before you find one. It's not, oftentimes things with Saturn don't happen from the first time, but when they happen after that, they're long lasting. Also, if you've done a great job till now, you might find yourself, Gemini, that you're put in a position of a much bigger authority than normal. I'll give you an example. A friend of mine just had the Saturn transit in her 10th house last year. And she was a lawyer, but she was getting so dissatisfied with her work as a lawyer. She's been there for 10 years. And she said, like, in the last year, Saturn's been already for 1 year in her 10th house, it's like, I felt unappreciated at my career. I felt that there were so many obstacles. I felt demotivated, but I didn't have the strength to start, to leave, because what am I gonna do? And suddenly she gets offered to be to become the mayor deputy, like almost like the deputy governor type of the town, which is 100,000 people town. And she's like, I'm so out of my depth, but she accepts it, and suddenly so much more responsibility and authority. And she did a great job because, yes, she felt like it was a lot of responsibilities and duties. She had to learn a lot of new things, but she gained such a great experience. And it's a short-term job, but this thing put her in from law into kind of politics and governance position. So it really changed her career direction as well. And so you might feel pushed, but it will show you the length of your strength, of what you can do for the world in your career and so on. And just like I was so happy with how I reorganized my business, then how I restructured it, but oh boy, for a year and a half I was like crying every day. I don't know how to do it, to be more organized. I don't know. It's like having fights because my dad was trying to tell me how to do my business and so on. So I'm giving you my life as an example because it's the easiest, but I hope you can translate it into your life as well. Also, you can start doing something serious that will impact you for the next 20, 30 years in regards to your career. Even if it's like studying something or whatever, but you put hard effort to establish yourself into the world and your social position. Sometimes if you're at a certain age, this can signify the ending of your career. Like when Saturn transited my mom's 10th house, especially the cusp, she retired. And so it's a new chapter in regards to your role in the world, so to speak. Because of seniority, because of age, Saturn rules all of those things. And again, if you've been abusing your power in some way over others in a position of responsibility, or if you've been neglecting your job or career, there can be a fall from grace from your career. You can lose it or whatever. But if you lose your job, don't think I'm a bad person, I've been abusing it. Sometimes it happens because the universe wants to tell you, take a long, hard look because you're not in the right field. There is a better place. Or I've seen also mothers who've been pregnant, raising children. Saturn enters their 10th house and they get very serious about getting back into the work field. And like this friend of mine who's been not working for 3 years, with a little kid, and Saturn entered her 10th house. And from the first year she says, I want to get back, gradually she psyched herself into it to get back to the workforce. And then she started applying, and she was been applying for 1 year before finally the job came or like something like 9 months. And when she found, it was a position of seniority and it was very demanding, she was not super excited about it but she learned so much there, and she said it got her going into that direction of of to be in the workforce, because 10th house is one of the houses of career, work, and so on. All right, but I speak a lot more about Saturn in the 10th house and the positives and the challenges that you can experience in my 2023 video for Gemini. Please purchase it. It's just $21. It's my best work every year, 2.5 hours for you. I've sold now already 70,000 of those, and we don't have refunds for those. Maybe if there's 1 or 2, so people really like them. Now, the next big event that's happening is that Pluto is moving your 8th house. Yay! Pluto in the 8th house. It's been there since 2008. So, a lot of psychological transformations. It's like your astral body has been purified during that time, but often it happens sometimes even through tragedy, sometimes even through deep psychological experiences, reversals, obsessions, and whatnot. It's like a bit of a very intense psychological period that you've gone through for over 14 years, but it's so long that you got used to with living with almost like this existential threat of some kind of disaster, expecting some disaster to happen. And this deep transformation of your personality, of your psyche, of the astral body. Actually, in esoteric terms, Pluto transiting your 8th house has been clearing your astral body. Oftentimes it happens through suffering as well, or through very deep emotional experiences, intense to the level of, I don't know, what can I say, it's like the dross is bubbling up to the surface, and Pluto is removing it. And when it moves now from March 23rd into your 9th house, it will come back again from July, June into your 8th house for a few months, and then 2024 it fully enters your 9th house. And what a difference this will make for you. Psychologically, you might start feeling already from the end of March that you can breathe, like in the sense that some kind of a darker energy or existential threat or some grief. Maybe some of you have had like deep-seated grief or pain body, as we call it. It's like drops off from you. You've been working on this pain body for years now, for a decade. But you probably might not even notice that you've been doing that. And I know Gemini is supposed to be superficial sign, but with Pluto being in your 8th house for the last 12, 14 years, I don't think you're any more so superficial. But with Pluto moving into your 9th house, it's going to feel so emotionally, psychologically, like such a big shift. And from the heavier astral energies, you might feel like you're dropping your astral pain body down, and grieving or some kind of existential threat feeling might disappear. And very deep emotional, it's like suffering as well, can suddenly fall off from you. But Pluto will be in your 9th house for the next 20 years. So again, you're not going to immediately notice what the goal, the evolutionary goal of Pluto in your 9th house is gradually, but some event might happen in the next 3 months that gives you a clue for the direction for you for the next 20 years. And why am I talking about Pluto? People would say it's not even a planet till recently, it's invisible. Because Pluto is the last planet in our solar system, and astrologically it's been proven that it rules the spiritual evolution of the soul. So the most important thing that you're here to do. And as I repeat in every sign, I'll repeat for you, Gemini, is that wherever Pluto moves in your horoscope, it shows what is the most important thing for you to do, and that will be for the next 20 years for you. And there'll be a lot of other planets moving all the time in other houses all over the place for the next 20 years. There'll be a lot of events external that happen in your life. Deaths, births, rebirths, whatever. Marriages, divorces, life goes on. The external event go on. But all those external events will be serving one mission. Will be serving the mission of Pluto in your 9th house, because that's the ultimate planet. Pluto rules the divine will for you and the evolution of the soul. So it might feel sometimes a bit forceful where it takes you, but it wants to fulfill the divine will for you and to evolve your soul wherever it wants to evolve it. And when Pluto is in the 9th house for the next 20 years, what does it mean? What is that evolution of the soul means lesson? Well, it will be totally to transform your belief systems. It will be, many of you might be called, if you have strong Gemini rising, Gemini sun or moon, to become teachers of some sort. 9th house is the teacher, the one that shows the way to others, the one who has been through the dark night of the soul. Well, Pluto was transiting the 8th house, the dark night of the soul, a little bit from the murkiness here. And now they can guide others. The 9th house, they're like an eagle above the forest, and they can see rather than being in the forest. So you'll be like a map or a guide to others. Some of you might be called to do that. Or your soul, whatever happens in your life, will all be streaming into the desire of your soul to become above things, to see the bigger picture, to become more philosophical, to see from a higher perspective, to become even some figure of, for the more older of you, for the more experienced, to become some kind of a figure as an example, inspirational figure to others. For the more younger ones, they can be that you dedicate years and years of your life to study and learning and higher knowledge, that you become passionate and hungry to learn. This is 9th house. And 9th house is one of the self houses, is the houses of self-improvement through knowledge. So there'll be a lot of focus for 20 years, not in an egotistical way, more in like, I want to transform myself, but not, Pluto always transforms us wherever we go, no worries, through the 8th house, through maybe more traumatic events, more obsessive, more karmic, more bounded with each other, more power struggles. But in the 9th house, it transforms you by your own desire for self-growth. I'm born with Pluto in the 9th house, and I know it. In my vibrational reading, my highest reading of 700 points was desire for self-improvement, a self-growth, or whatever you want to call it. And when Pluto enters your 9th house, there will be this intense fire and desire to learn, to study, to educate, to not necessarily in universities only, but to understand the principles and the spiritual laws. And it can make you to be almost like fanatically spiritual, searching for spirituality, searching for answers of the big questions. What's the purpose of life? Where am I going? Some others of you might have even mission, and your soul might grow a lot through foreign residence over the next 20 years, through becoming foreign cultures or by connecting with foreigners. And there can be some very extreme experiences as well, very transformational and sometimes extreme and even dangerous. Depends what aspect Pluto is doing from your 9th house, which you can only find out if you attend my webinar. Let me do some Pluto manipulation. My webinar, Pluto in Aquarius, at the end of February, the start of March. Check it out. It's just 5 hours one time. I'm not sure which day I'm going to do it still, but it's only $39 for early birds. So we'll see if, when Pluto is transiting, what house for you. Is it making easy or hard aspects from there? But the ultimate goal is that Pluto will transform your beliefs, will make you more spiritual, will make you to hungrily search for a higher purpose, higher meaning, connection with something with your higher self. Some of you might become prophetic, see into the future, who knows. Others might have some extreme crisis of faith that happen. When exactly it happens, it depends on the degree of your ascendant, on the cusp exactly of your 9th house. You know, you can find out through the webinar that I'll do when exactly, but some kind of a crisis of faith. Like, I am born with this position, I constantly have crisis of faith, and I constantly recycle new and old belief systems. You can become obsessed with knowledge, high and ancient and new, and delving into those things, and even become some kind of a authority or influence or transformer of human beliefs and human education over the next 20 years, science or so on. But there might be some power struggles, especially. There might be some disappointments because of teachers or inspirational figures that you follow turn out to be darker or on the dark side. You might have to be careful, but overall Pluto will be helping you. Pluto is it will be for all of the signs, just Gemini and Libra. Pluto is actually empowering them tremendously, and what empowers you is because you would be so interested in self-growth, in higher knowledge, in expanding yourself as an individual, and you gain a higher perspective. To some extreme cases, people can become bigoted about faiths, about beliefs, about causes, what is right, what is wrong. Then they become like a preacher. So you might notice some Gemini becoming a bit too high on their horses, preaching and bigoted and indoctrinated, how dare you type of thing, you know. You have to watch out for that. I had this very judgmental, because ninth house is the house of the judge, and the one that sits on his high moral horse. And I remember as young, I was very judgmental of people, and very judgmental, like, because I was very religious and spiritual, and I was like, oh, never do that, how can she do that, how can, and I did all of those things, and I ended up life to show me, you know, how bigoted I was. I ended up doing all of those things that I judged before. So try not to be judgmental of others, because Pluto can be very black and white in their beliefs. But Pluto wants you to empower you by adopting the right beliefs, empowering beliefs, and removing disempowering beliefs from your life. So there will be some deep examination of what you believe is right and not right. I constantly do this because I have it all the time by birth. So I constantly question, is this true what I believe? Is this empowering or disempowering to me? Is it true that you truly need to have children, or whatever it is that I notice that I become too unflinching on, and that I become too judgmental of others about some belief. I always start questioning myself. So it's good to remember that for the next 20 years, so you don't get too bigoted in your belief system. But your beliefs, you see, you can hear me when I believe something, I say it with such conviction. Even if I'm not fully convicted, I'll convince others. And Pluto will give you this power of conviction, hopefully the right convictions, because the wrong ones can do a lot of, harm, like a holy war or jihad, or, But this power of conviction, and to stand up for your moral truths, and you're going to examine your moral and ethical belief systems very deeply. But Pluto overall will make trine to Gemini, and especially the early born Geminis can feel it from already 2023. The later born Gemini might take them 5, 6, 10 years to really feel the empowerment that Pluto gives you. And it means that Pluto will help you with your career. Again, to tell you when exactly, we need to do this webinar where you know your degree, and I tell you which year Pluto will be there and what it means. But Pluto will put some of you in great positions of power. Pluto will put some of you in great positions of influence. Because it's a trine, it's not going to happen in a crisis way. It's going to happen in a more natural way. Pluto gives more willpower that is almost like unhuman, especially if you have some goals. If Pluto is trining your sun, you can, whatever your goal is, you'd achieve it in those 2 years of Pluto trining your sun. So there'll be some profound changes, but in a more non-crisis, non-dramatic way, but that again, that you become deeper, more, and you empower yourself and others. But Pluto will support you with its trine aspect. But I speak a lot more in depth about how Pluto will influence Gemini in my 2023 video. Again, it's only $21. It's 2.5, 3 hours. If you're interested, there is a link below. Okay, so let's specifically focus now on March. March, and it's only valid for March. March, there is focus on your career. The sun is in your 10th house, and some renewal there, some new activities that you start, some new developments that are happening, all with institutions and authority figures. Then maybe some work that you have to do. Mercury is also there. And then the other big influence is Aries. Venus and Jupiter meet in your 11th house, and stay there almost for the first 20 days. Venus is there with Jupiter, but from the beginning of March already something very good, because these are two benefic planets, Jupiter and Venus. The two ones that really protect, bless. In your 11th house, something positive can happen in regards to your social circle. So if you get invited towards the end of February or the start of March or the whole of March to some event with other people, to some party, to some lecture, or even some online event where you gather with others, it's group consciousness, collective consciousness is the 11th house, on a mutual goal, or to participate in some group, to participate in some event, go, because something really good can come from that. Jupiter, Venus there. You know, some might meet love, some might meet business opportunities, some might meet a teacher, some might meet someone that, you know, really bring some beneficial or very pleasant experience for them. But such events will tend to be very positive. 11th house is also the house of gains. So if you have your own business, or maybe you receive a bonus as a possibility, if you want to ask for that, do it the start of the month. When Venus and Jupiter in your 11th house of gains, ask for a bonus, you know. Or you can come up with the idea for more gains of some sort. Or maybe some kind of recognition can come to you this month from society, and you can feel rewarded in some way for your previous actions. 11th house is rewards and gains. Maybe you did something right and now you're rewarded, you are offered something, or some new opportunity appears to you because of your previous actions as a reward that can be gainful, plus socially socially gratifying. So these are the 11th house influences there, plus maybe a new friendship can appear that is positive. Something very positive through others that comes to you. Go out with colleagues if you can, or be more social, because good things are coming to you from that. Or if you have your own business, 11th house is your following, your clients. You can have more, you can attract more richer clients, or clients that are more agreeable and likable, and you know, all of those kind of stuff. And the other most important things for you, Gemini, is that Mars continues to be in your sign, but that's the last month in March. Mars has been in Gemini since August 2020. I know some of you went through a battle of their life here. You are battling for something, you are changing something, the direction of your life, the direction of your career, some of you, the direction of your body, something, if it's your moon in Gemini, maybe your personal, private life, emotional life went through some turbulence and big change. But Mars is moving already direct and gets out of Gemini, and even some of you notice that there was like a lot of adrenaline in their life. But also, while Mars was retrograde, their life was a bit put on stop and slowed down. Well, Mars will leave your sign if there was any health problems towards the end of March. It all goes away. You're no longer involved with those new beginnings, these new changes there, especially in regards to physical body or health, or some kind of, it all becomes, you know, any kind of problem that might have started in the last 6 months disappears from you. Any kind of stressful situations, it's already not stressful because Mars is moving direct, but in March you kind of complete something, you see the results of it, you might be rewarded for that as well, and you might kind of like job well done, whatever's been buggering you, whatever conflict or stressful situation there is getting resolved. Or especially if some health problem was affecting you, again, it goes away. So there you go, Gemini. I hope you enjoyed that. Definitely you have to come back to this video for many years to check out for Saturn, for Pluto. Maybe save this video to favorite so you have a quick access to it. If you liked it, you might hate it, what I said. So do whatever you want. I'm kidding you. I'm preparing you for your own inner authority. Saturn in the 10th house will ask you to become your own authority. So, and Pluto in the 9th house, you might discover like a new teacher that transforms your life, but also most importantly, your own intuition is your most important teacher. So that's what Pluto will develop there. Bye.